GDP data out this morning shows that the U.S. economy grew at 6.9%, which is almost in line with estimates of 7%. But growth might slow down this year, and Federal Reserve Banks of Richmond and Atlanta, in collaboration with Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, found that optimism among executives fell this year. Companies are concerned about costs, inflation, and labor, and that could impact the hiring outlook moving forward. GDP is a key indicator of U.S. economic growth and can help us understand how close we are to a recession. So here now to share some of that insight is how we can prepare for a recession with Charlie Wells. He's a Bloomberg News personal finance reporter. Charlie, thank you so much for being here. How can you prepare for a recession? And even if you're not worried about a recession per se, should you be preparing anyways?
Excellent question, Shanali. And look, the big risk for consumers in a recession is that they lose their jobs. Now, we don't want anyone to panic. We don't know if there will be a recession, but this is a good question to ask yourself anyway from a personal finance standpoint. What would you do if you knew that you were going to lose your job next week? You would probably cut back on expenses. You would probably pay down high interest debts. You would probably make sure, in essence, that you had your financial house in order. And that is one of the best things that people can do if they think there may be a recession on the horizon.
Now, it's interesting because for the last several months, we saw the Great Resignation. People were leaving jobs thinking they could find jobs anywhere. There were a lot of jobs available. There still are a lot of jobs available. So why now are we still worried about jobs potentially being lost?
Yeah, I think the big concern is that if there is a recession, the economy would effectively contract. And that would mean that there's just less economic activity going on. The need for workers could potentially be lower. Now, we don't know if that is going to be the case. There are, of course, some indications that that could be. And that's why it's really good for people now to start thinking about what could happen, especially if they haven't been through a recessionary situation before, which, Shanali, I think you and I remember well from our days starting off in the workplace, what that was like. And it was difficult.
It happens quickly, right? So
it does. It happens quickly.
There's also other things that are about to happen. Student loan moratoriums ending. Are there other reasons that people might find that their spending power is diminishing, especially with so much inflation that we're seeing?
Yeah, so we're looking at the price of, consumer staples go up. We are, thinking about how and if the Biden administration will resume these student loan payments. And so I think taking a look not just at your own personal balance sheet right now when, it feels great. It feels like the economy is in a relatively good place. We're not in a recession, but thinking about what your personal balance sheet could look like 6 months in advance and maybe a year in advance. And that could really make you think about some of these situations arising that could take a toll on your personal finance situation. And I think the phrase is make hay while the sun shines. And that is a medieval phrase that goes back to take advantage of a good situation right now for rainy days ahead.
Well, what about the market here? If you have an extra dollar to spend, should you be putting it in the stock market or even in cryptocurrencies, which have done really well compared to the stock market since the war has actually broken out?
Yeah, that's really surprising. So look, if you've got your financial house in order, if you're really on it and you are able to invest more, the thing that financial advisors always say is, don't react to headlines, right? React to fundamentals, make good and smart investments. But if you do think that there could be some choppy waters ahead, this is a really good moment to reassess your risk tolerance, right? Chanel, you mentioned crypto. And for a long time, when it seemed like the economy was growing, when the stock market continued to go up, some of these riskier, maybe say smaller cryptocurrencies maybe without the history of some of the larger ones, looked really attractive. And, let's say you did lose your job, you didn't have that income. Is that a risk that you're going to be willing to take in the future? That's a question that you should ask yourself with crypto and any other investment that you're thinking about making.